Hey everybody, welcome to another live stream for the Kind of Sleepy podcast. This is I guess it's become a series. It's become a thing now. We're not relaunching the podcast until September, but we're doing a series of conversations just to kind of get people still talking about the pertinent information and the pertinent conversations that we need to have in our community. For those of you who don't know why it's called Kind of Sleepy, being woke is exhausting. I got to remember who's canceled. I got to remember who to boycott. I got to march all the damn time. I got to make sure I keep candles on deck as well as lighters to make sure we can have these candlelight vigils. That's exhausting. So I would rather be kind of sleepy out here and have these discussions and talk about various things and talk to various people about things out there, literally kind of in the streets doing the work and doing the conversation aspect of it. So with that being said, let's start off with introducing some of our panel today. I'm going to start off down here at the bottom to the left. Attorney Greg Harris, how are you today, sir?
Well, you should have started with my esteemed person right next to me. I'm nobody. I'm doing awesome, man. Thanks for having me on here, man. I look forward to
Glad to hear, man. Glad it's been way too long, man. We got to catch up real soon. I got to get down in the Mobile to holler at you, man.
Way too long, bro.
Absolutely. Next up, we have New Tigolo, Sean Tigolo, aka Chantel, aka your favorite media personality in a past life. Everything. What's up?
Hey everyone, I'm Chantel. Just give a little context who I am. I'm a therapist. So I work in the community, and my research interests are around healing racial trauma. So this is like, it's weird to say my jam, but this is like,
I mean, yeah, this is kind of your thing. This is your lane. So you said your area of study is healing racial trauma, not relationship trauma. So people, that's a whole different live stream and conversation. So don't start hitting her up, asking her about your ex and why she ain't called you back, especially after that 112 versus Jagged Edge battle last night. Don't do it. Don't do it. And last but not least, my brother from another mother who grew up 10 minutes from me, and we didn't know each other till we found each other in Afghanistan.
It might have been in right. Yeah. Hey, everybody listening. I'm Victor Vincent, and I'm a entrepreneur, published author of 2 books. One called The Code, and the other one, most recently, called The Business of Me. I'm a real estate investor located in Central Texas, 12-year Army veteran, intelligence contractor, been an instructor for like 3 years. I got a resume of stuff that I've done, but most presently, I'm a culturally responsible capitalist. That's what I'm coined myself as recently, because like I'm not on either side of the politics. It's like we live in a capitalist society. If you can't speak the money language, it's gonna limit your impact in terms of like pushing the culture forward. So
you get left behind.
Mm-hmm.
Also, for those of you that don't know, I've seen Vic squat more than anybody else in human history with my own 2 eyes. It's kind of scary. The strongest man I know. Yeah. So let's dive into this. I want to make this like I told you guys before we started. I want to make this a healthy discussion, not necessarily commiserating around the incident that happened in Minneapolis or the incident that happened in Georgia with the Ahmaud Arbery or Breonna Taylor's murder, or even the lady Central Park Susie up there in New York, who's calling the police and using her tone and inflection, her fake tears to use the police as a weapon against this man, weaponizing the police force. I want to talk about where we go from here, how this impacts our community from a couple of different areas. And I'm glad you guys are here because you guys can speak to these various areas. The first place I want to start with is with Chantel, with the psychological and mental health area of this entire thing. You said you study healing from racial trauma. With us being subjected to this over and over and over and over as a community, as a people, on one hand, it does desensitize us a bit, I believe. But how does this really influence us from a cultural standpoint and from a community standpoint?
Ooh, that is a heavy question. So just to give aspect or perspective of what racial trauma is, think about PTSD, but it happening all the time. And so the medical community or the mental health community has not caught up with what Black and brown folks are experiencing when it comes to watching their bodies being mutilated, violence, even small things like microaggressions, right? And so we don't really have mental health disorder that classifies racial trauma, right? And so
it could be like racial fatigue. I've heard that phrase used before.
You're talking about racial battle fatigue, and so that's the exhaustion that all of us are experiencing now after hearing the news about George Floyd and Nina Pope and Breonna Taylor. That's when it's a particular type of race-related stress where you're experiencing sadness and grief, hopelessness. Sometimes you have somatic symptoms, so undiagnosable symptoms that are not diagnostic with pain in your body. So for me, I get tension around my neck, or, I get nauseated, or today after I read George Floyd, I found myself super fatigued. And it's because it is really your mental health impacts your physical health and vice versa. And so you are experiencing violence vicariously through watching stuff, but also through your day-to-day, like walking as a Black man around the world, watching people clench their purses, hearing negative stereotypes, seeing stuff on the news is all impacting your physical health. That's why we have cardiovascular disease. That's why we have diabetes. That's why in our neighborhoods, we don't have a Whole Foods. And so all of that is like holistic. It's why you have financial stress. So yeah, it's just all encompassing and holistic, and it's literally killing us.
Wow. I had never looked at it from that, wide angle lens, so to speak. So I have a question, so we have racial battle fatigue, and you mentioned how microaggressions and stuff like that. It's kind of a story, but it's also a question. So the first part is a story, and when I first met Vic and we're in Afghanistan, Vic is Vic. Vic is gonna always be Vic. And this guy, Vic, you had a mohawk then, Vic. And this guy said something about Vic's mohawk, and Vic immediately said something about right back to him, like shot it right back to him. And I didn't think much of it, but when he broke it down, he was like, "No, that dude came for me in a certain way. That's almost like buck breaking was back in the day, and I'm not gonna take that. I'm a free Black man, and I'm going to defend myself. Period. I'm gonna let you know what time it is up front." So I know that's one way of dealing with microaggressions and stuff like that. What are some other ways that we can deal with racial battle fatigue and just having to see this repeatedly on our phones, our TV screens, and on our laptop screens?
Right. And so one thing I always do, especially with my clients, is thinking about your social media content, right? Unfollowing people that don't put trigger warnings when they post the video and you accidentally, now you have vicarious trauma. I remember that happened with me with Philando Castile. Like I was scrolling on Facebook and I was like, what is this video? And then all of a sudden I was fucked up for the rest of the week, right? And so also with your social media account, following people that give you a call for action. So say, for instance, a lot of NAACP social media accounts give you people to call. They give you templates for letters to send. And then also accessing spaces like this, like spaces that are sacred spaces for Black folks and are just for Black folks, and talking to people that are really going to hold space for you. And also, I think I would be remiss if I don't say, like, Black folks need to go to therapy, right? Racial trauma is real on top of everything else. And there are ways to access free therapy for Black folks and even like groups. So for instance, I run a group called the Healing Circle that's specifically for Black women. And so it's a sacred space for them. They don't have to code switch, right? And they don't have to like play the game at work because they're the only one. And it's a place where they can literally sit down and be like, yo, I'm tired. And we know exactly what that means.
And Black men, we have our spaces like that too. I've often joked that the barbershop is the Black man's country club.
Yes.
I often say that, but it's always some dudes in there that ain't getting the cut that's talking dumb shit. So, we need our own spaces as well. So I got my man Manson in here. What's up, Keita? What's going on, bro?
What's going on with you, man? Sorry for being late, having some technical difficulties, but I'm here. So thanks for having me on.
Man, like you was doing pull-ups, man. You over there getting swole, man.
I've been doing my penitentiary workouts, man. I went and got one of those pull-up and dip bars. And honestly, I might not lift weights again because I'm getting way more gains doing these calisthenics than I was lifting weights. So that pull up and that dip bar, it's the truth. And the push-ups, it's the truth. And I've been watching YouTube, seeing these dudes out here with these alternative ways to get big. So yeah.
I mean, Herschel Walker won the Heisman without ever lifting a weight. So
what'd you say?
Herschel Walker won the Heisman without ever lifting a weight. So
yeah, I heard he doesn't do weights, and that dude is like rock solid.
He's jacked.
Yeah.
So I'm glad you came in. You came in at the right time, Keita. So you from Oakland, Oaktown, you know, home of the Black Panther Party for self-defense. And I remember us talking, you know, not at length, but a little bit about how back in the day, people grew up wanting to be a panther or a dragon, you know, back then. And so coming from that, an area with such a rich heritage of self-defense, and, you know, watching the police as they police our communities. This is the only time I'm going to ask this question tonight. How did the whole situation in Minneapolis and any of these situations where unarmed Black folks are getting killed by police make you feel?
Well, one, just for the record, name's pronounced Keita, not Keita, but it's all good. Story of my life.
My bad.
You mentioned police in our neighborhoods. Well, the police aren't policing our neighborhoods. They're terrorizing our neighborhoods. You know, the job of the police are to patrol neighborhood, ensure safety, uphold the law, and apprehend suspected criminals or people that are allegedly suspected of committing crimes. After that, and I'm no attorney, just going off what I've seen in the movies and read in newspapers. After that, I guess the prosecutor, DA presses charges, and then there's a hearing and there's a trial. 12 people determine your fate, and then one other person on the bench determines what your punishment is going to be. So we're not having that right now. What we're having is a bunch of judge dreads going out here playing judge, jury, and executioner, thinking that they can put the law into their own hands. Now, how do I feel about that? It's unfortunate because I'll be honest with you, I didn't even see the video in Minneapolis. And I can't watch it. And I'm like, I'm not even gonna watch it because it's terrifying to me. You know, when I see people that look like me get killed, it's scary because anybody knows me knows I'm a narcissist. Like I love me some me. Like I love me, and it's not out of just being conceitedness. It's just about the pride of me. So when I see other Black men, like I love Black men because I see me in them. It's like looking into a mirror. So if I see someone that looks like me getting killed, you know, it just puts me on edge, especially under those circumstances. And I don't want to be desensitized to seeing someone that looks like me being killed. I want to have the same emotional shock every time. You know, it's just like I remember one time I was living in East Oakland, and one of my ex-wife, one of her neighborhood friends, ended up getting killed. And the shooter at AR-15 was shooting right in front of my house and killed the guy. And I didn't want to be desensitized to seeing stuff like that happen, so I didn't watch the video. But it's just really unfortunate about that it's happening, and it's at this point now. What do we do? What is the right way to fight? Because we tried writing our lawmakers, we tried protesting, we tried rioting. We even had a couple of rogue people like in Dallas and Baton Rouge even attack police officers with weapons. And it's like, how many different methods can we try to combat this and let them know that's unacceptable before lawmakers start waking up or people stop trying to hide behind the blue wall? I mean, peacefully.
So we're gonna get to the solution. We're gonna get to the solutions, and we're gonna get to the solutions in a little bit. But I'm glad you said it. I just want to let everybody know we're actually gonna talk about how we can combat this. But continue. I just wanted to make sure we put a pin in that.
Oh yeah, excuse me. It's a hot day. Like in the Bay Area, a hot day to us is like 70 degrees, and so now it's like 90, which never happens. And I know y'all in the South and East Coast, y'all used to, but me now, like, I don't do temps over 72. But just spin off real quick. I just want to address something real quick. People are talking about, oh, what about Black on Black crime and blah, 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 blah. First of all, they're not even in the same conference, same league, even the same sport. When a criminal decides to kill somebody else, innocent or another criminal or a gangbanger, on tape, they usually get arrested. They get tried, charged, convicted. The evidence is right there. That family receives redemption. That family receives justice. On the flip side, when police do the same thing, they're rarely ever charged, rarely ever tried, rarely ever convicted. And then people always want to try to blame the victim. Black men are the only people responsible for their own deaths. Like it's crazy. And so they're not even the same from that aspect in regards to how justice is served. On top of that, criminals don't care about the law. They don't give one or two F's about the law. Police, on the other hand, have taken a sworn oath to uphold the law. They're supposed to be model citizens. They are supposed to exemplify what it means to be a law-abiding citizen. And so when people say, what about black on black crime? Those 2 points don't correlate because of what I just said. And two, black on black crime is regional. It's not racist. It's regional. 90% of people are killed by people of the same race as them, and they're usually killed by people that they know. So that is a regional territorial issue, not a racial issue. So I just wanted to put that out there.
Gotcha. I appreciate that. So we got that part. We got Shantigalo giving her point. So let's step down here to Brother Harris. Mr. Harris. So as we know, you are an attorney. As we can see on the screen, you're an attorney. From a legal standpoint, before we started this, we talked about the district attorney and the role of the district attorney and stuff like that, and just a little bit about what we do politically to combat this kind of stuff. From a legal standpoint, can you kind of just give us your thoughts on the extrajudicial killing of black men under color of authority?
Hey, so first, Massa, man, I'm glad you said that you didn't watch the video, and I saw you, Chantel, you were kind of nodding and saying you didn't watch it either. Man, that makes me feel a lot better about life because I hate watching these things, right? Like I cannot tell you how much it hurts me to watch these videos, and it's like you look on social media and it's like everybody's watching this video and everybody's sharing this video, and so it gets to like this critical saturation point where it's like, all right, well, let me watch the damn thing and see what's going on, because at least I can probably chime in on some legal perspective to say, whatever. But I mean, they're all the same. It always turns out to be, here's what's happening at the end of the day. You got a district attorney who's standing up there, we've all seen this before, right? He stands up in the camera and he gives a whole bunch of reasons as to why they're not going to prosecute or why they're not going to indict the guy. But one thing that people don't realize, though, is before all that happens, the district attorney has a choice whether or not to take and seek action based upon what you just did. So just because you committed a crime, that's not like an automatic like crime equals court, right? So like a prosecutor has what's called prosecutorial discretion. Like you can look it up. It's a real thing. It's actually a part of their job. Nobody talks about it, but it's a part of their job, right? Just like me as a defense attorney, I have discretion to choose what cases I want to take and what cases I don't want to take based upon the merit, just like a prosecutor. But because they're a prosecutor and because they're elected, and because in most places like here in the South and everywhere else, they're elected by the majority of people who don't see quite like I do.
Or have the same experiences as you walking through life.
Huh?
Or have the same experiences as you walking through life. A lot. We'll talk about voter turnout in a little bit. So let's continue.
But no, you're right. But like, so what we really have is a reflection. So our world is actually what we make it, right? So like, if we think about it in like a real point of view, like we actually kind of made this world, right? We complicitly created this world by putting the people in place in these positions to structure our system and then to maintain our system and then to enforce our system. And every 4 years, every 2 years or whatever, we give them a break and it's like, okay, all this fucked up shit just happened in my community and we're going to put you right back in office again, buddy. Appreciate that. And go back and tell me you're going to help me out again and then go fuck me over. And we do that every year, right? And so it's ad nauseum, right? It's like, why am I get involved? Why watch politics? Why look at this stuff? Because we're going to turn around and do the same thing again when there are plenty of good people in the world who run for office, who have great points of views, but we just don't see them. We don't look that direction. We don't go the extra mile because it looks so diametrically opposed to the reality in the world that we live in. It's like we espouse for this way of life, but it's so different from what we understand that we just continuously go with this more familiar piece. If that makes any sense.
It's the devil you know versus the devil you don't know.
It's the devil you know, bro. We just keep going with him.
And to touch on that, I said that a lot of times in this country, and I've seen it and I've said it multiple times and I stand on it. This is a hill I'll die on. We don't want freedom. We want comfortable oppression. And that's something that I'm not at all going to back down from, and we can prove it with so many different ways. So, all right, now let's step over to Vic right quick. Let's get to the financial and business and entrepreneurial aspects of things, because I definitely want to get your viewpoint. So so you're an entrepreneur, you're an investor, you're a culturally conscious capitalist. Is that what you said? Culturally responsible capitalist. So what? And this is where we get to the solutions part. What should if I'm a culturally responsible capitalist, or if I'm an entrepreneur, or I'm in the money game, so to speak, how do I combat this kind of stuff? And what should my response be here?
I think the first start to solving the problem is recognizing that you're in a fight. Okay, like if you don't know that you're in a fight, you're already operating on a different frequency that puts you at a disadvantage. Okay, so from the fight aspect, in order to fight effectively and actually win and retain your position, you got to understand that where you live has to be seen as key terrain. Okay, and this is from a tactical type of view, and I can't help turning that off because my background is military and intelligence operations and planning. So if you can't control your own backyard and your own territory, you're never going to win your fight. Okay. So we've talked about police overreach ad nauseum, and you have to kind of view their presence as an occupying force. So what you have to do is limit your silhouette and exposure to them, but not putting yourself in their crosshairs, because there's never been a positive thing to come out on the wrong side of a police interaction for with when it concerns us at a high enough frequency where we can feel like we can trust that everybody that comes to work that day in uniform has our best interests out. And as far as like the police serving and protecting, they're there to make official reports and protect government property. Okay, period. Their history doesn't support the protection of lives that aren't white. They are there to ensure that white people get the most out of the judicial system. Like the reality is this, man. White men typically in power, as far as like legislative reach are concerned, don't even really care about their own white women. Like white women had to have the Women's Suffrage Act. They had to have a whole amendment passed in order for their own white women to be part of the process. Like they still don't even have rights to their own bodies and things like that. They constantly debating these typical things. So if white men don't even care about their own white women, black people don't even register, you know what I'm saying, on white law enforcement agenda. So what can we do to mitigate that, right? Number one is conversations like this. You know what I'm saying? You got to unpack these terms, because we've been operating on a lot of falsely assigned values about how we see ourselves in our own community. There's just too many of them to unpack right now, but we have to create and control our own narratives in our own backyard, so we can say, how do we take that intellectual capital and turn that into something that we can leverage that helps benefit our own community? You know what I'm saying? So like, if you're going to complain about the vacant lots where, like nefarious activities take place, or have that those areas attract the police to sit there, no different than going fishing, right? You go to the same fishing hole, the same spots. If you go hunt, where to go shoot a deer, the same area. We create spots. Well, we perpetuate some spots, you know what I'm saying, that bring the police into our area. And when they got a quota to make, they'll never admit that there's a quota, but they got deer tag opportunities. You know what I'm saying? So you got to look at it like, how do we, plant our flag in our own backyard to say, yo, this territory right here, we're here to protect it. You know what I'm saying? Which goes back to the narrative about the Black Panthers and them controlling the narrative. And even when they tried to muddy it with FBI surveillance and police overreach, the narrative that the Black Panther Party created prevailed. We know how Fred Hampton was targeted. We know, Huey P's real agenda. We know that he was educated because they controlled the narrative long enough that even when the FBI's nefarious agenda,
COINTELPRO, yeah,
when it was exposed, you had to go back and say, man, they really did do them in. And then so think about some of the false connecting narratives that they tried to make. You've seen white people try to say, oh, the Black Panther Party was just like the KKK, but you can't find no pictures of Black Panthers going to go lynch white people in their own communities and having cookouts while they hang from trees. So
the body counts don't add up.
The body is just not there. You can't. This ain't it, fam. You can't find a way to make that conversation logical. And the reason that they was able to control their narrative is because they owned the territory where they were. Even though they dealt with police, and police overreach, they committed their energy to protecting the community. You know what I'm saying? So that regardless of the outcome, they left a legacy in terms of cultural responsibility to your people that look like you. You know what I'm saying? But you have to do that in your own backyard first. And by the way, the Black Panther Party's national celebrity, I guess you could say, in that push also has roots in Lowndes County, Alabama. You know what I'm saying? So that part, and Chicago. All right. So what I'm saying is that if you replicate, if you create a process and replicate it everywhere else, it has to begin with the narrative first. So.
So it's basically owning your narrative as well as owning where you push that narrative and where you stand.
Yep. And you can't do it in your zip code, you can't replicate it anywhere else.
Got you. Dustin, man, so glad you came in, man. Really appreciate you popping in on us right quick. I know you got some thoughts about this as well. We having a whole smorgasbord of people pop in, so we're gonna be rotating folks in throughout the whole night. So I know you just heard what Vic said about owning our narrative, and you're the resident philosopher here, essentially, as far as I'm concerned. So philosophically, do you think that us owning more of our communities, and including owning our narrative, will actually benefit us in the long run in curbing some of these extrajudicial killings of Black men under color of authority?
I think it's a start.
Or run.
I think it's a start. I think it definitely will help more than it will hurt. Now, I just listened to Vic talk about how when
give me 1 second right quick, Dustin. Greg, I'm not kicking you. I'm gonna put you backstage right quick because I got somebody else that want to pop in right quick. Is that cool? All right.
Yeah, give him a chance to answer.
Sorry, but I saw his thumbs up. He got to go do daddy duty. It's cool. But no, continue, Dustin. Continue.
So I think it would give us a place to start. I heard Vic talk about the things that we've done in the past, as far as our ancestors, and those things bringing targets on our backs. But knowing that the targets have been there and have been put there, and certain tragedies have taken place, I think it's an indication that that's the threat to them, whoever those people are, whoever them are. And I do think it's a start. I do think we can do more if we push the boundaries of what they want to keep from us, or we say they want to keep from us, but it seems like they want to keep from us by way of what they hinder us from doing. I do think there are roadblocks to a lot of that, especially now. I think a lot of damage has been done. I popped in quickly earlier, and I listened to, I forgot who it was, but I think, and I can't see everybody's name right now, but she talked about how we have been traumatized. Okay, Chantel, is that how you pronounce it? Okay. She talked about trauma and how we deal with certain things, and we all know that there's a lot of that happening in our communities, and that has affected our abilities to maintain healthy relationships, not just with each other, but with ourselves. And so when you talk about organizing, you're talking about a lot of relationships that have to be intact to be able to put certain things into play or put certain things into action, to be able to get certain things done, whether it's, you know, certain businesses or whether it's certain organizations that have certain political pull, or anything that we do collectively. Our relationships have to be better than what they are currently. And so for me, that's been a huge focus of mine, is just making sure that I'm shoring up the relationships in my life. Because I mean, it's a daunting task to even think about how much we have to organize and how much work we have to do. But if we don't start with our relationship, then we won't be able to get anywhere. And so kudos to you for doing this kind of thing and these kind of topics, because I don't see or meet any of these nice, fine people without it.
Well, I'd had to do something because they cut off BET's news stuff back in the 90s, and so we need to have these damn conversations, and we're not having them. So I brought in our local organizer, our local favorite activist here. She's the host of Pretty Petty Politics. It's my big sister over here, Jules. What's up, Jules? How are you tonight?
Good evening, everyone. I'm good. Busy day, of course. Y'all know already. But I'm good. Yeah. You know, the work is plenty. And my favorite motto is there's enough work for all of us. We don't have to compete. We just need to drive in our own lanes. So where I have strength, let me operate in my strength. I don't need you criticizing how I use my strength. And where you have strength, I'm going to encourage you. I'm not going to criticize you and how you utilize it, because like they teach us in church, you know, the body of Christ, it has many moving parts. And that's what we have to be in this movement. We have to recognize that we all bring value. Some of us, we're going to use our voice, and that's all we have. Some of us will have resources. There will be people who are absolutely silent, and you'll be looking at them with a side eye, not realizing that they're funding the movement. You know, everyone won't be Harry Belafonte funding and walking. You know, quite often you find yourself in this work, you find yourself having to navigate and maneuver in new different ways, but you better find yourself in building relationships, because that's how the work gets done. You cannot do this by yourself. No one organization can do this alone. So that's my biggest encouragement to everyone who is listening, to the panelists this evening, and to anyone who will listen in the future. We can't do this alone. Find your lane. And I guarantee you, I started this work, I think my freshman year of college. So I ain't gonna tell you how many years that's been. But find your lane and just trust that the right person or persons are gonna come around and they're gonna equip you and they're gonna hand you off to somebody else. And before you know it, you're a leader. And you just have to be responsible, because this is a calling. To me, this is ministry. This is literal kingdom building.
Got you. So you're in Houston, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if there's been any activity going on in Houston, because I know you're always in the community, you're always doing stuff. And Vic, I know you're in Central Texas, and you know you're the culturally responsible capitalist, right? So I'm in a different part of the country, and you know, we're all in different parts of the country, essentially. Mm-hmm. Has there been any local stuff going on where you are in Houston in the wake of this most recent killing in Minneapolis, in the wake of the Ahmaud Arbery shooting, and in the wake of the Breonna Taylor murder?
Yeah. So here in Houston, we've had over, I don't want to misquote it, let's just say over over 5 fatal shootings in Houston since mid-April. Police involved shootings. I want to be gentle with my words. In one incident,
you don't have to be.
No, I do need to be, because I like to be correct. In 2 of the incidents that I'm sure of, the victims were Hispanic. One of those cases is under review. In several of these cases, it's been where it's been titled a good shooting. I don't think any shooting is good unless they're pointing a gun and firing at an officer, or the officer's life is just in like dire danger, like they're gonna die if they don't act. But here we don't have a de-escalation, so that's a
we're gonna put a pin in that right quick, because me and you, Vic, we're gonna come back to that in just a second.
Okay,
but continue on.
Thing. But so let me. I'm gonna come back to last night's suffocation, for lack of better words. We did participate in Ahmaud Arbery because that's a national call to action from the NAACP. So Georgia put out a call. Dr. James Wardell put out a call like, we need other communities to stand in solidarity. So everyone did that. And that case has been like the catalyst, which we're all familiar with. And Breonna comes in, and her case strengthens the call, or helps galvanize the call and expose, what's been happening. So we've been participating. This past Saturday, Houston leaders and celebrities, we had a slab ride for justice. So if you know anything about Houston, we like our slabs. They call them dunks down south, where I'm from, but slab ride. And it got a lot of support, but it also got some people turning their noses. But what I explained was, when I spoke on Saturday, there are a lot of people here today that came just for the slab ride for justice and didn't know any of the other names, the names that we invoked that day. And so that's what it goes back to. All of the work is important. I just got a text from somebody asking, let me know what's going to happen for what happened in Minneapolis last night. So the victim, Mr. Floyd, is a Houston native. He's a graduate of Yates High School, historic Jack Yates High School here in Houston. That's a big deal. That's in the heart of 3rd Ward. That's 3rd Ward High School. That's where Yolanda Adams went to high school. That's where Roland Martin went to high school. Like that's a serious school. And so the phone call started early today, and they've been nonstop. So much so, after this, I'm turning off my devices so I can get some rest. Having said that, there was a loosely put together rally, and I say loosely because I don't know any identified organizers, but it was a successful, loosely organized rally today at Emancipation Park. And Emancipation Park, let me just put that into context, the power behind that, and I hope people there recognized it. Emancipation Park was land that was purchased by freedmen shortly after Juneteenth. They purchased this land, and it would later be turned over to the city of Houston. So it's very powerful that the rally was held at Emancipation Park, of all places, because that sends a very strong message. It invokes the ancestors, and we can always use those spirits for guidance. I'm pretty sure we are. Tomorrow I'll sit down with law enforcement. I'll sit down. Hold on. I want to say this on NAACP Houston's Facebook called Community. We'll sit down with our sheriff and our chief of police. We've got to be okay with having conversations with decision makers. You've got to be okay with knowing who your city council member is. It's good to post on social media, but if you can't have that same energy for a city council meeting, especially right now when everything is electronic, I'll march for you if something happened, but for real, I need you to step it up. Yeah.
I'm glad you said that. So it sounds like there's a lot going on in Houston, not only on the activist standpoint, but just in the societal standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
I had no idea you guys had 5 police-involved shootings since April. That kind of blew my mind a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Kate, I'm gonna come to you in just a second. Before I come to you, Chantel, so you are in the Georgia area. What kind of things have been going on around the Ahmaud Arbery shooting?
Well, of course, you had people participating in the call to action for the NAACP. Personally, the people that I know were all studying to be psychologists, so we have been on the forefront holding space for Black folks. And I want to say next week we're training mental health professionals in the state of Georgia around racial trauma and how to engage in that type of work. So really and even engaging with activists to make sure that they're sustainable for the fight is something that we don't really talk about. So as far as that's concerned, but this Athens community is heavily populated with the Latinx community. And so there's a lot of problems with immigration and deportation and stuff like that. So we've been helping with that as well. So it's a lot of as far as people I hang with, a lot of doing the work as far as the emotional labor goes.
Got you. Okay, so with that being said, Kate, I'm coming to you now. So 10 years ago, in Oakland, on a very tragic New Year's night, a little over 10 years ago, there was the murder of Oscar Grant by Johannes Meiserly. And I remember that very vividly. I found out that a young lady who I'm acquainted with from Birmingham, who I went to high school with for a while, that was actually her cousin. And it hit me a little harder then. It already bothered me because this man was literally handcuffed face down on a subway platform, on the BART platform, and got shot in the back. And I was like, how does this happen? How is this okay? And the guy got arrested, tried, convicted, and was home before Christmas. Hold on, bro. How does this happen? I know that in Oakland, there was a huge problem with that situation. What was the response in Oakland to that? And the reason I'm asking is because I'm trying to see whether we've progressed in our activism and in our activity and responding to these things, whether we've regressed or whether it's been a steady pace. And I think 10 years is a wide enough span to kind of gauge that.
The response was vocal enough. I think the city knew that they were going to be looking at, not city, the county knew that there's going to be an issue, which is why the defense pushed so hard to have the case relocated, and because they knew the city was about to start getting cracking. You got to look at what else was going on at that time, not just in Oakland, but around the country. This is the height of the recession. People they had nothing but time on their hands. People were unemployed. So those that were working, they were unemployed, didn't have a job. With gentrification and with the crack era dying, you had D-boys that, the crack was a movement, so they weren't on the block like that. They had nothing but time. People were frustrated that they're losing their homes. And of course, at that time, quiet as kept I think it was from January of 2008 to January 1st, 2009, there were about something like 10 Black men that gotten killed by law enforcement in Oakland. And doing the math, that's once every 6 weeks. And Oakland at the time was only about 380,000 people. And it's a big city with a small town atmosphere. So the reaction was very active. People were very mobilized. They're ready to make stuff happen, and they were frustrated. And so the defense, we got to do whatever we can to push to move this case out. And they ended up moving to Southern California, which changed the whole dynamic because now you don't have people that are actually in the community, from the community that was affected, marching in front of these courthouses all the time, in downtown Oakland all the time, letting their voice be heard, ready for stuff to kick off. And they also kept pushing the case back and back and back and back. And of course, as time progresses, hype goes down. And you even saw that with the verdict. Involuntary manslaughter got time served. Nothing happened. People were worried about, if there's going to be a riot or something like that. There was no riot. The news, you don't really know Oakland. You may have seen the footage. People were rioting in downtown Oakland. that was one intersection. That was like 14th and Broadway, the main intersection in Oakland. If the camera zoomed out, the riot that happened when the Lakers won the 2000 championship was 3 times the size of that happened in downtown Oakland. So the anger was really tense and people were mobilized at first, but as the court progressed and time progressed and the verdict came down, I think a lot of the mobility had just died down, and unfortunately, and then also the landscape of the city had changed a lot too. Gentrification happened so quickly in Oakland that a lot of those people that were Oakland residents in 2009, they weren't residents in 2010 or 2011, whatever it was that the verdict passed. Like it came quick. I think the only other 2 places that may have been gentrified as quickly as Oakland was probably like Northeast DC, Fillmore in San Francisco, or maybe Harlem in New York. Like it happened quick. And now Oakland's like what, 23% black? Yeah, Oakland used to be the DC of the West Coast. So yeah, it's not the same Oakland. So it just the fact that those numbers aren't there, that people are spread out, people are moving to Houston, moving to Vegas, moving to Stockton. You know, the community isn't the same, so it's hard to get the community to mobilize like how they used to.
Man, so gentrification has hit a lot of places. I think gentrification is a big generator almost of a lot of these issues that we're having with law enforcement. So Vic, I want to come to you with this next question. So Jules talked about how there's no de-escalation protocol with Houston PD, or she just talked about de-escalation essentially, and how things aren't de-escalated. And we've seen in multiple videos, and I'm sure that, you know, I mean, you have 4 black men on the call and 1 black woman, as far as I'm concerned. Trying to take a look. That we all we probably had some very tense moments with law enforcement. At least I know I have. I've had some very tense moments with law enforcement. When we were in Iraq, or when we were in Afghanistan, there were 2 things that were always at the forefront of your mind. And you got a briefing on it before you even got on that plane to go over there. It was called the Law of War briefing. And you had one thing called escalation of force rules, and then you also had rules of engagement. Yep. And I remember, what was it, like 2009-ish, 2010, where they said if there is a boy of fighting age in the villages, or a boy of fighting age on your patrols.
Military age male.
Yeah, military age male. You cannot fire on him just for holding a rifle.
Yep.
You can't fire on this young man
until you're fired upon, and you can pinpoint where you're being fired upon from. Because like this constant small arms fire, so you don't know if you've been shot at right away until you actually hear something whiz past you. So, and
it's a whoosh versus a whistle. When you hear the whoosh, you know you're getting shot at. When you hear the whistle, you know they're close. Okay.
You don't even hear it. You know what I'm saying? Somebody just hit. So yeah. I've said this multiple times. If law enforcement in the United States, the way they handle, you know, like private citizens in the United States, behave the way that they do here abroad, they will get brought up on war crimes at The Hague. You know what I'm saying? They would get handled. They would.
UCMJ would hammer their ass.
Shoot, it wouldn't just be that. They'd be a violation of international law with the SOFA
Geneva Convention.
It's so many layers to how they would have some level of accountability. The main issue in the States is that there's no accountability behind what they do. You know what I'm saying? So it just reinforces the narratives that, like, you can go justice system is messed up. It's not messed up. The justice system is designed to protect white people. You know what I'm saying? And as it's played out, it's not broken. We were never meant to have the equity in America that we currently have as black people. We were tools, you know what I'm saying, by paper. 3/5 of a human being. So that's what I'm saying. Like, these narratives have always perpetuated us, you know what I'm saying, perpetuated our existence. We've been historically demonized and lessened in value and dehumanized. Once you recognize that those narratives are already operating against you, you got to look at where your territory is and how you function a little bit differently. You got to look at it like, we're not supposed to be successful based on their doctrine. Okay. So we have to create our own doctrine that operates off of those known facts and demonstrated policies that these people have. They don't have your progress as on any part of their agenda. So we got to create our own metrics for success in our own community, which starts with narratives, conversations like these, and actually getting it, like recorded and documented it. You know what I'm saying? So when we get lost, we can travel back in time to certain points where people were putting us on the right path. That's what we all do when we become culturally responsible, right? You say, hey, look, I'm tired of being upset, angry about, where I fit as a Black person in society. Some of the main things we always go back and do, we go back and look at Malcolm, Martin, Marcus Garvey, Angela Davis, the Black Panther Party.
Du Bois, Booker T.
Yeah. These are all reference for us to travel back in time to when we had a great start or an opportunity at acting off the narrative in the positive direction that we were trying to go to before we were either derailed by legislation, outright assassination, or just put back in our place in what America was originally intended. And out of those narratives, we still come back with the same types of approaches to things. We got to have one guy that we got to get behind. We got to have one voice that we're trying to get behind, but we don't have, and that creates a lot of dissolution between people like us. Like when Julie was talking, is that how you say your name, Julie? Okay.
Yeah, that's how you say it.
Started off talking about the different niches in which we operate in, where some people don't talk, but they still make things happen. Now we look at each other sometimes and saying, like, you don't do something to my level of approval, but you don't even understand my lane of influence on that. And the thing is, we're all from different tribes, and tribes have different ways of doing business. We all drink from the same water hole, right? But there's a time and a place when, your tribe needs to be here at this water hole at this time. You know what I'm saying? Like, you got different resources in your tribe that you're better at cultivating than the other tribes might be. You know what I'm saying? So, but if we get on if we find a way to get those different talents out of our different tribes and then operate in the same narrative, of like, we got to protect our culture because we're diverse. We are not monolithic people. You know what I'm saying?
By any stretch of the imagination.
And that's what makes us better. You know what I'm saying? Even if all of us did the same thing, we still gonna have a class of worker bees. We're gonna have a class of academics. We're gonna have a class of people as middle class. We're gonna have a different class of entrepreneurs and everything, simply because this is where it comes back to. America is a capitalist society. You have to do something to be something in our society. You either add value or you don't. This is the bottom line. And if you operate in that vein and you base your personal doctrine off of that, you will recognize that if you don't add value, you will go extinct and you will take people with you. So you gotta take the ceiling off of the idea that all I want is. No, it's no more all I want. Take the ceiling off. You got to go beyond that, because the work that you do while you're alive has to outlive you and give breadcrumbs to the couple of generations that's coming behind you. Because wouldn't it be sad if you lived 40 to 50 years and you don't have anything to offer? You don't get credit for getting old and being trash. You know what I'm saying? For the culture. Straight up. You know what I'm saying?
That's real though. That's real. Let me pull it back to there was something that was very telling when we talked about escalation of force and rules of engagement. And I wrote about this a while back. I noticed in Ferguson, it bothered me so bad to see police with MRAPs. For those of you that don't that weren't military, an MRAP is a mine-resistant ambush-protected vehicle. It's basically a huge SUV that's armored and is up high so that if you run over an IED, it doesn't immediately push your vehicle over and send you into a roll. So they have these tactical military vehicles. You have guys on top. I saw a guy, I have a picture saved on my phone somewhere of a guy on top of one of these vehicles, and he's wearing the OCP style camo that we wore that was specifically created for Afghanistan, for the army. He's wearing this with a vest on that says police, and he's aiming down a scope on a $10,000 Barrett MA1 rifle. It's a 50 caliber rifle. Who the hell are you shooting with a 50 caliber rifle in America? That, like Vic just showed, the bullet is that long. The round is that big. Like, it's a huge. The rounds themselves individually, if I'm not mistaken, are about $750 a piece, and that's wholesale. So a 50 caliber shot is taking out your whole chest cavity. I'm just gonna be honest with you. That's what it's gonna do. And so what got me thinking was, you mean to tell me that these protesters, these 20,000 protesters here that are being nonviolent, not only are being compared to these 200 or so over here who are, looting and kicking in glass doors and stealing from CVS, but also you mean to tell me that you're going to treat them in the same manner as you treat terrorists, but actually worse, because you don't have the same escalation of force rules or rules of engagement. It scares the hell out of me. And the reason it scares the hell out of me is because I've seen what these weapons, what these vehicles, and what these tactics are made for. And the American populace is not supposed to be facing that in any way, shape, form, or fashion. So, with that being said, Jessica said, I still do not know why the military sells these vehicles to civilian police force. I want to go back to the war on drugs. And I remember, what's the guy's name that was the LAPD police chief that had the battering ram? I can't think of his name, but they had a tank with a battering ram on the end. I want to say that was the beginning of that whole police militarization thing. It was Daryl something. Daryl Gates, Chief Gates. He was the one that kind of started that, and it just snowballed from there. So my question is now, so Vic, you and I are veterans. We've got somebody's been in law school. We've got the philosopher here. We got Kayla here. We got Chantel here. We got all these folks. I want to know, what can we do moving forward? Because we've been going almost an hour now. What do you think is the root of addressing this problem? I'm not doing no more damn marches. I'm not doing no more damn candlelight vigils. I'm just telling you that now. I'm fucking sick of walking, and I'm tired of burning my fingers with this damn wax. Okay,
you don't have to. Let those humanities do it.
And I get that. I completely get that. But it's got to at some point go beyond the street and get into that courthouse. It's got to get into that ballot box. It's got to get into them banks. Because once you start messing with the money, that's when things start moving. I want to answer this one. I want to start with Destin. I want to start with Harper.
Oh, can I say something real quick? You're talking about the militarization of police, and I'm a bit of a geek. I'm a sci-fi nerd, and there's a show called Battlestar Galactica, which is a show about cyborgs trying to wipe out humanity. And with the country pretty much collapsed, there are issues of protecting the people as well as policing the people. And so the president wanted the command of the military, well, not military, but military, to come up with a police force to patrol the people. And what he said to the president was, there's a reason you separate the military and the police. One fights the enemy of the state, the other serves and protects the people. When the military becomes both, then the enemies of the state tend to become the people. And so when you're talking about the militarization of the police, and who was he shooting at with a 50 cal? I immediately thought of that quote, and I just wanted to share that. And that's real. And that's one thing I've had. No disrespect to veterans, but a lot of times when people get out the military, the first thing they do is segue into law enforcement. And I don't think that it's right to have veterans in law enforcement, because veterans are trained to go out and kill an enemy. Military.
Kayla, let me come back to you. I got somebody I really need to bring in. I'm gonna bring you back in a second.
Go ahead.
No. I got somebody I want to bring in right quick. Hey there.
Hey.
Welcome.
How are you? I'm good. How are y'all doing?
Good. So tell people who you are. Introduce yourself right quick.
So hello.
I told you we're gonna have people coming in all night. It's a lot going on. So
Amen. So hello, everybody. I'm Dr. Asia King. I'm a licensed professional clinical counselor and counseling psychologist straight out of Minneapolis, Minnesota. Right now, I just got back from the protest of our young Black man that got murdered yesterday, which is ironically right down the street from one of my jobs. So I do contract work throughout the Twin Cities, and I work with different organizations and stuff. And if you go to my Facebook, and you'll see a live where we are, protesting for George Floyd. And let me tell you real quick a little backstory. So Minneapolis is completely different than Birmingham, Alabama. If you met one black person, you've met all black people up here. Okay, it's very small. I'm dead serious. I'm from Birmingham, so I come from black teachers, black mayor, black. My dentist was black. Everybody is black. Up here in Minneapolis, Minnesota, baby, if you met one black person, you'd have met them all. Everybody knows everybody, and it's a very small community. So George Floyd got murdered, but George Floyd was a part of the community. I've met him several times. This is the 5th to 6th killing by a police officer that I have experienced since being up here for only 8 years. And being a therapist, it's not that it happens and then it's removed. It's happening, and then my clients are coming in saying they were in the party with Jamar Clark. I got people that wanted me to provide therapy to Fidel Castell's girlfriend who was in the car. So it's not like it's removed. It's not like it's happening and then you don't know them. It's happening, and then you know where they are in the community with you. And the racism up here, it was a culture shock for me. Like I said, I grew up in the South, and I tell folks all the time, we started all of this. Civil rights, racism, segregation now, segregation forever. We started that. So to come up here to the North, where it's so supposed to be so liberal and so open and so, ground changing, it's a lie. These are the most racist motherfuckers up here I've ever experienced in my entire life.
Racism has no boundaries.
Absolutely, but the way they disguise it, it's almost like when you get up here, their attitude is "You're welcome." You're welcome.
Covert, overt stuff.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I've had to check more white folks up here than I've ever had to check them in my life, and it's sickening. It's sickening. I've had to do more work on how to stay grounded as a Black woman up here in Minnesota than I've had anywhere in my entire life. And it's an awakening moment for me. And today, just going to the protest, like, people are tired, but the only issue is we're tired, but we don't have a plan. What's next? All right, we done protested. They done busted out some of the cops' cars. They done threw, the folks maced us that maced them. And it's like, okay, y'all done did all that. Now what?
So what's the prevailing, the prevailing energy, the prevailing feel, the prevailing, I'm sure it's anger there, but can you describe what the atmosphere right now is amongst our people in Minneapolis?
Right now, and what's beautiful is that, Minnesota has a huge Native American population. Like, there's all sorts of reservations and everything. And it was so beautiful for all the Native brothers and sisters to come out and beating drums and coming out with their chants. And the energy is, but it's always like this. Every time an officer kills a Black person up here, they will protest. They'll stop the highways. They'll stop the streets, but that's as far as it goes. And everybody is up in arms. And his memorial will be right there next to the grocery store where he died. But that's as far as it goes. And so, really, the work has to be within the grassroots. It has to be within your local people. See, I'm a human rights commissioner for my city, and I get to see the underbelly of the shit that they be doing. We had to call them, the police chief and some of the hiring people, we had to call them to task on how is Brooklyn Park, where I live, one of the 6 largest cities in Minnesota with nothing but moms, African American, every minority lives in this city, but yet our entire police force and fire station is nothing but white folks. What is that? You ain't protecting me, you coming to police me. And you're definitely not hiring within my community, because 98% of the community in Brooklyn Park is African to African American. So everybody is pissed right now, but give it a week. Give it a week. And everybody's going to go back to living their regular lives, not voting, not doing the underbelly work, not doing the extra stuff that they need to do. And then until the next officer kills us, then we're going to go back and protest.
So I'm glad you said that, Asia. And this is what I kind of wanted to get to. And this is kind of where, Jules, I'm going to lean more so on your expertise and your experience here. But I really want to ask the question to you, Dustin. Where do you think we start in addressing this kind of stuff in our community and the extrajudicial killing of Black men and Black women and Black people? Let me just say Black people, period, under color of authority. And where do we start, and how do we make it sustainable? Sustainable and replicable. That's what I want everybody to think about. Sustainable and replicable.
The first thing that comes to my mind is, like, we have to start with ourselves and go to the place of being accountable for our laziness, being accountable for our lack of organization, being accountable for our ignorance, being accountable for false outrage and popular outrage, being accountable for being scared, and then at some point figure out how much we're willing to sacrifice for what we say we want, or just shut up. I think there are enough cases, enough killings, there's enough information out there for us to be a lot further along than what we are. I mean, you talked about Oscar Grant's killing. We can go back to Trayvon Martin's killing. I know that wasn't by police, but there was a specific law involved in that killing that a lot of us didn't understand at the time and didn't know how it worked. And, you know, these are laws that get voted on. And the only elections that the majority of us are concerned about is the presidency that happens every 4 years. And that doesn't affect us as much as our local and state governments do. It's important. But like you said earlier, we should know city councilmen. We should know who the district attorney is. We should know, you know, a lot more officials than we do. And if we're going to do it that way, we got to be a lot more involved in the system that actually exists. Now, I have a saying that, and I kind of revised it a little bit today, but a system can only be non-violently destroyed when the people who benefit from it, rebel against it for the sake of those who are crushed by it. And we got to decide how far we're willing to go and how much we're willing to do to create the change that we have to enact.
I like that. I was on mute for a second. And you touched on something that Jessica said a little bit while ago. She said we have to encourage our people to get into politics. And I'm all about that. I mean, because that's one of the ways that we affect change in this nation, in this community. It's a part of our representative democracy and a part of our republic. And it's allegedly in the roots of this country's system of political action. Going from there. So step one essentially is accountability. We need to be accountable and we have to get involved. So those are two things. Now I want to come to you next, Vic, because you talked about, we talked about, Now, I'm just gonna let you ride with it, man. What can we do to change this, man? I'm not even gonna preface it, man. I just want you to ride with it, man. Talk to me.
So I get all of the accountability, personal accountability stuff, but we've been saying that. We have to accept something about whether we're personally accountable or not. Everybody ain't gonna make it. It's just like in the army, we have spread the view back out for me, because I want to get everybody else's, you know what I'm saying, feedback as far as being able to look at you guys. But like in the army, you guys ever seen those videos of formation runs? You know, got a whole group of soldiers and they running together, right? Well, we usually put the slowest person up front so we can run at the slowest person's pace. So we get the whole formation together, right? But when the slowest person falls out, we turn the formation around like once or twice, right? Every time we do that, we hold the formation up. You know what I'm saying? Because if you're gonna fall out at your own pace, we got to just let you get back to it. We're gonna give you the address, and you're gonna, you know what I'm saying, you got to get there on your own merit. Well, the reality is that everybody ain't gonna make it, and we're in the evolutionary process right now. People are going extinct based on the way that they think. You know what I'm saying? Not necessarily about what they do. What you do is almost a representation, an act of how you think every day. You know what I'm saying? So if you function, if you absorb enough toxic stuff, you're gonna go out and act toxic. You know what I'm saying? But in displaying toxic behavior, you put yourself on the extinction schedule, so to speak. You know what I'm saying? Like you don't do enough. If you die fast enough, you don't leave nothing behind for somebody to grow off of. You just leave an example of how your life ended. You know what I'm saying? So that's why the work that you do while you here is part of the evolution process of people that comes behind you. So like we're here trying to push the evolution of it by having conversations like these. So talking about the things that we're not doing right, yeah, that's kind of a reference point, but that's kind of unimportant because we got more work invested in solving the issue by actually acting on, you know, bringing those things to fruition that we want to see happen. We're not. I'm tired of regurgitating the problems. I'm tired of regurgitating the same issues that we talk about. Oh, black people don't do this. We don't come together. No, reasonable black people work together. Those are the people that involve. Okay, we have to take that into consideration too. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm 41 years old. I don't want to be talked about. You know what I'm saying, about what I need to do to be better. You know what I'm saying, for my community when I'm doing the work. Go live the example that you're trying to convey to people that that don't necessarily have that. But if we constantly are having conversations about what we don't do, then what do right? What right do we do? You know what I'm saying? We got to start reinforcing the things that we like. Right now, we got a panel of doctors, published authors, real estate investors. I don't want to hear about the shit that we don't do right anymore. Fuck that. Let's talk about what we're already doing to add value to, because like we waste time talking about the things that we don't do right. You know what I'm saying? When we could be getting behind the person that's doing something exceptional, and they get lost in the sauce. They don't get any visibility. You know what I'm saying? So in that same philosophy, you have to translate that into, okay, the things that I do right, that's in my resource bag right now. How do I build on that? What resources do I have individually, right? So then you got to start looking at the economic picture, because nothing happens in this country unless you got your economics straight. And I give you an example. When Trump got elected in 2016, black people lost their shit. They was blaming each other for not going to go vote or voting this way or whatever way. You didn't see none of the Asian communities, the Jewish communities, none of those folks overreacted. You know why? Because they fucking money is insulated. Okay? They don't give a shit who the president is. They've already bought their politicians. We need to buy our politicians. You know what I'm saying? Dr. King, I need to have money in your pocket behind you to get you into the political conversation that can leverage that. Chantel, I need to have you on her staff. I need to pay for that. You see what I'm saying? So like when you say get into politics, you got to be careful about how you say that, because a lot of uneducated people, you know what I'm saying, or uninformed people or unresearched people are going to go out and vote for something, go vote for the bright and shiny object every 4 years. You know what I'm saying? But no, we need to get down to the grassroots of the what it takes to solidify group economics, so we don't have to give a fuck about at the national level. And then if we create that model in one zip code, that makes sense. And we can bring people to our Black Wall Street and say, hey, look, this is what we did. Assemble your crew. You know what I'm saying? And take that back to your zip code and do the same thing. And then we change the landscape of what our neighborhood looks like. Like in my brain, my neighborhood is every place I bought a sandwich. I pull out a map and put a pin in it. I should be able to fly to Charlotte, and I should be good there. I should see a property there, and I want to buy it, and I want to do something in that community. You know what I'm saying? Chad, you better fly back down here where I live and say, hey, I got a house down here. You know what I'm saying? Then we start growing our network like that. The internet draws us closer. Like this is our community right here. You know what you're looking at right now? You all of my neighbors. We got to find out how to do that economically, though. You know what I'm saying? That's more important than
that's one piece.
I understand, and that's my piece.
I don't want nobody to get that messed up, though. Yeah. Economics is one piece.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Like, okay.
But the thing is, nothing happens in this country in terms of actioning our anger. We don't turn our anger. We don't weaponize our anger. You know what I'm saying? Like we got to find a way to turn that the protest, the picket signs, the Facebook posts into weaponized anger that leads to an economic foothold. So then we can fight better. You know what I'm saying? And that's just one piece of it. Because like if you can fight better, you can protect your leaders. You know what I'm saying? Better. We don't put our leaders in harm's way like that. You know what I'm saying? But if you let them walk around naked, unprotected, you know what I'm saying? Then you get guys like Nipsey getting killed in front of their shops when they add value to their communities.
Man, let's not go there. I'm gonna get upset. I'm still gonna get upset about that. But it's true. It's very true. Hold on, Jules. Hold on a second, Jules. So yeah, economics, as you said, Jules, is one chunk of it. It's a pretty major chunk in a country that claims that the almighty dollar is everything. This country is often said that you don't have to be black or white if you always have green. I've heard that more times than often, but the thing is you can't buy your way of the black experience either. So we have to find a way to temper both sides of that viewpoint. And so I just want to put that out there first so that people don't think that, buying, like, cause it's some people out there who really believe that buying a house and working for yourself, while it's a big chunk of the key to freedom, it does not create freedom for you if you don't recognize the realities around it. And so it's all about putting things in context and understanding things at a wide angle lens. And I just want to make sure that we're very clear about, where we stand on some of these things. But Julie, I just wanted to do that right quick. I know you got something, and I want you to get to it.
So I appreciate what the brother said. I appreciate what Vic said because economics does play a huge role. My mentor is Vietnamese, right? Before I started my future multi-billion-dollar business, I was under some Jewish people picking up everything that they did. Everything, right?
Can you tell them your business? Tell them your business. I'm all about plugging.
No, not right now. That ain't even important right now.
Okay, we'll do that later.
But for me, what I realized is, as a student of history, of our history, right? If I look at the last, I don't want to say 150 because that'll take me too far back. But if I say the last 110 years, economics is everything. We get that. It's important, it's critical, and it plays a role in everything that we do. However, as a student of history, they don't give up about our economics unless they getting it. And I'm a case in point, Rosewood, Greenwood, American Beach in Jacksonville, right? Tell you the story about American Beach right quick. American Beach was purchased by the first black millionaire in Florida, right? He was one of several people who started Afro-American insurance company. There was no place for his employees to go on vacation, so he bought a beach outside of the city. If you go to American Beach today, it's not the black beach that it used to be. It's the Ritz-Carlton, it's Hilton, it's these private entities. Everything that we do and purchase throughout history gets bulldozed and snatched away from us. I'm just calling it out. Michael Bloomberg stepped out there this year. Oh, Mike for Black America. Mike was a joke and you ain't heard from him since, right? But his initiative, they think if they adopt a name that may reach and touch a few of us, that we'll listen. The Greenwood Initiative. Where's the Greenwood Initiative right now? So they bombed that community in Tulsa, Oklahoma. We got to understand that. There's a reason why it's not taught to us. So we have to me, this is more critical than economics. It's knowledge. We have great buying power. Trillions of dollars come out of our community. But if we're not consuming the things that feed us, see, not just things that adorn us, but things that feed us, then we still working for the man. We ain't did nothing for our own community. But if you start buying books and opening schools, the very first thing freed people did was open schools. Y'all understand that? Reconstruction. The very first thing, they got land and they opened schools. That's what they did. Even before emancipation. When you think of Denmark Vesey, Mother Elizabeth, what's the name of the church in Charleston? That church,
Mother Emanuel. Mother Emanuel.
Denmark Vesey. They burnt that church down behind him when they were doing the slave revolts. So what I'm saying is the economics is purely important, but there has to be other pieces because they're going to come and attack it. They're already coming and attack it. They attack it by creating crime. Now, I'm not saying that crime isn't in every community because it absolutely is. Absolutely. But when you have people putting on literally Hollywood mask and robbing banks as a black man, y'all see where I'm going with that? Like, we don't know what's black or white. I just watch. Y'all feel where I'm coming from? I need to see.
What's the saying? If black people were as violent as they believe, this country will be burning right now.
Right.
And so the stereotypes is one thing that, we seem to always run up against. Shantigalo, I want to get to you because she mentioned Mother Emanuel, and I know that's your old stomping grounds and whatnot down in that area. So tell me, we now have two mental health professionals on here right now. Tell me what you think essentially we should do to move forward, and what kind of sustainable actions we can do to address these issues.
Well, one, I think what Julie said early on about all hands on deck is like the key to it, right? So we have to understand that racism doesn't just happen on an individual level, but happens on a culture and a societal level, and that is cyclical. So that's why oppression keeps happening, like it happens in a cycle. And so we all get in our own little niches, and like we glean wisdom from the ancestors of how everybody had hands on deck to make sure that they survived slavery, then we could go from surviving to thriving, right? And so that's why I'm so passionate about mental health, because our parents did the best that they could do with what they have, but now it's time for a new iteration of freedom. So that goes back to, can you go back to everybody so I know their names? I'm kind of like everybody else. Thank you. It goes back to what Harper was saying about, like, we need to understand how to maintain relationships, right? And so that's on the individual level. But I'm a healer, and so my niche is healing my community. I don't give a fuck about white people, right? That's somebody else's job who could do the emotional labor to educate white people on why Black folks are humans, which is like absurd to me. But my job is to make sure that my folks are okay when they experience vicarious trauma, right? And I think the third thing for me is that until the lowest person on the totem pole has equity, then we are all not okay. Like, my oppression is tied with my brown folks' oppression, with my trans folks' oppression. It is all tied together. And Black folks are definitely not monolithic. And we could also multitask. So we could walk on the street and chew gum at the same damn time. And so until my Black, trans, woman, indigenous, disabled person is not free and doesn't have equity, I'm not okay. And so I think, like, yes, everybody's not going to make it, but also everybody can. If we all fight for the lowest person on the totem pole, make sure that they have equity, right? Not equality, like fuck that shit, like
Right.
right. And it also goes back to what Julie was saying about education. Like education is so important. If all hands are on deck and we're all teaching the new generation of like, these are your rights, this is how you get into politics, like this is how you handle your mental health. And Black history is so important to mitigating racial trauma. Like there's studies, right? And then if we think about even the all hands on deck, back to what Julie was saying, with Brown versus Board of Education, it was Black psychologists' research that helped determine that. And most people don't know that. And so for me, my niche is healing and research. Like I
didn't know that.
And publish, and I will heal the community, and I will help sustain activists, and I'll get out there with my marching shoes when the need be. But also I know like economics isn't my thing, but what will I do? I will bring in somebody who has that niche to teach scholars and students, because we're all students and we're all scholars, about certain things. So for me, it's holistic. It's not a binary thing. It's not this or that. It's a both and.
Gotcha.
Can I say something right quick, Chad?
Yes, Jules.
So with the economic piece, the reason why I want people to understand why I went in like that, I just want you to have something else to fall on when the resources are taken away. And my 4th grade teacher taught me this. I'll never forget. Tall white lady from Tennessee, Miss Marlowe, she said, the one thing no one can take away from you is what you store up here. And so if I built it before, if I have knowledge, I can build it again. And I think sometimes when we lose stuff and we don't have therapists available, we think that it's just over and we don't try anymore. And so we get to the place where we'll just take whatever is given to us. That's why I say economics is powerful and important. But if it's not accompanied by that best friend, education, it's just like grace and mercy. They got to be together. You know what I'm saying? On that point, we got to give each other grace. And I'm done.
I got you on that point. So like my thing is, I don't think that you can effectively engage in economic empowerment without some form of education. And it doesn't have to be formal. Any form of education that gives you that economic empowerment, whether that be through experience, whether that be through, going to school or reading the books yourself, if it creates that economic empowerment, if it creates that economic engine, it is value. And so they have to go hand in hand. The only person I know that stumbled into $1 million is currently sitting in the White House. Okay. That's it. I don't know nobody that just woke up one day and tripped and fell and landed on a bag full of money. And the thing is, even if they have that money, what does it say? A fool and his money will soon part. So you have to have that foundation, that intellectual, that educational foundation to even make the economic piece work. Now, Asia, I want to get to you. And then we're going to close out because we almost had an hour and a half. I want to get to you. I want to know I want to know 2 things from you. I want to know what you plan to do in Minneapolis, continuing to do what you're already doing on top of what you're already doing. But I want to know how you think we address and attack this overarching issue and make it sustainable. You're on.
Yep. So one of the things that I've taken to, just like Chantel said, I'm a healer up here in Minnesota. And one of the biggest things that comes from all of this is that the Black community is tightly knit. So I know at some point during this week, 1 or 2 of my clients are going to come back and say, that was my cousin, that was my nephew, that was my uncle. And so being able to validate their pain and being able to hold that pain with them, and really, the generational trauma that we've been carrying really takes a somatic approach. Okay. A lot of our folks suffer from, what they call those underlying health issues. That ain't always from eating. That's not always from eating. It's from incidents and moments like this that make us, have our early strokes and our heart attacks and our back aches and our legs ache and our mind aches. Our nerves are so bad. It ain't got nothing to do always with our appetite. Now that definitely plays a part, but watching this secondary trauma, this vicarious trauma on a regular basis, if a foot get cut off, the whole body shakes. And that's what we're feeling up here, is that one foot, one piece of the toe. And every time we see it, our whole body just ripples. And so my approach is about helping us to make sense of the vibrations we're experiencing in our body as we're witnessing our other parts being murdered. And that takes a lot of work because, you know, I tell folks therapy was really designed for folks who got money and time. Okay. And so creating space for our folks to understand, you have to make time, and making it accessible too, making it affordable and accessible. And that's the work that we're doing. I work for myself, and within myself, I contract with 2 organizations that are Black ran. One is ran by a Black woman, and the other one is ran by my partner, Cedric Witherspoon, who's a Black man. Okay. And one thing I love about the spaces that I work in is that we put our people first. I tell folks, we're not going to beg folks for a seat at the table. It's the days of asking folks, please treat us humanely, is over. We got to stop asking folks that never wanted us in the first place. So one of the things that I'm doing is, you know, helping with the somatic, helping us figure out what's going on with our bodies as we're witnessing and we're maneuvering, you know, how to get through this trauma, but also being a part of the community. Like I said, I'm a human rights commissioner for Brooklyn Park. So I join the meetings. We meet with the chief police officer. We understand. So because the piece about it is that, like Julie was saying, you got to have the education behind this. It's not that we show up, it's that we don't have the language to outwit them on what they think they're outwitting us on. If you don't have the language, that's how they shut you down. And so I make sure that whenever my folks come up and they're in a situation, whether that's with CPS, the police, I give them everything they need to say. And then I use my credentials as a backing for them. Because regular folks coming up to advocate for themselves, ain't nobody checking for them. But you can definitely use my credentials, and you can use my 20 years worth of this field experience as, hey, he's not coming alone. He's not coming alone. He's coming with a team. So many times I've showed up with folks who was about to get their children removed, and it'd be about 5 of us in the room ready to advocate just for you. And that's what we need. It's not just about talk. It's about backing each other. It's about fighting for the cause and knowing what we're fighting for. And most importantly, being able to acknowledge without apology of what we are experiencing every time we see this. And we don't take time as a people to do it. We just kind of bulldoze through, but then we end up with early deaths because we don't ever take time to care for ourselves.
Mm.
So, you know, the work that I'm doing up here is making sure that my people have a place where they can talk about their pain and nobody gaslights them on it's not real. It is real. You know,
That's
I got
real.
2
That's
Black
real.
boys, 14 and 9, and every time I look at them, I'm praying over them. But I'm also putting in the work, because if I don't, and they go out there uneducated and not knowledgeable of the things that they need to be aware of, then they're sheep.
Mm.
And that, you know, and so that the work that I'm doing is helping to educate our people and just really helping them give space to figure out what they need to do, and then being the voice and the credentials to back up what they want to do.
Mm. Hey, thank you so much. Thanks to everybody. I don't know where Kata went. I think Kata, I was gonna try to pull him back in. I think he had to go run and do daddy duties. But I want to thank everybody for joining in today, man. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to every last one of you very intelligent, vibrant, beautiful Black people. I know half of the panel right here is parents of Black children, so this is very important for all of us to kind of build that community, because I know we all worry about our babies. I am the father of a rambunctious, smart-mouthed, genius baby girl, and I just know when she get pulled over, she's gonna be like, "What the hell you pulled me over for?" So I want to make sure she grows up in a world that way she doesn't have to worry about this and doesn't have to deal with this. But it's our reality, and it's up to us to change it and everything. Vic, thank you so much, brother. Chantel, thank you so much. Julie, thank you. Best, thank you so much. Asia, thank you. Appreciate you, Kata. And I also appreciate Greg for coming in. And we're going to relaunch the podcast. Look like sooner rather than later because this is catching some traction. So I'm enjoying it. Oh, before we leave, though, before we go, we got some entrepreneurs on here right now with us. So Vic, I want to start with you. Tell them about your books again and tell them about your businesses because I'm all about supporting Black-owned businesses and I want people to, get the word out.
All right. So start with the books. Written 2 books since 2018. The first book I published was called The Code and is a blueprint of solidarity among reasonable Black people. And it sets conditions for us to have baseline chats like this. You know what I'm saying? Because like for too long, we have focused far more energy about the things that we're not good at instead of the things that we are. So in order to have a conversation about it, you got to find out what you're good at first. So my second book was The Business of Me, was more so introspective experience about what I went through that made me form my code. So it's kind of a prequel, you know what I'm saying? So like it's about my personal experience growing up as a young man and into a man from Birmingham, Alabama through my military experience, allowing that to let that shape me, then my post-military experience, and then transition into the entrepreneur that I've become, which is the last part of what I was going to say. Like I'm a real estate investor. I got out of the Army in 2013 down here at Fort Hood area. My first property I bought was in 2009, and I've kept building my portfolio. Now postured, and I'm running a crowd fund that's rooted in buying back the block, so we can create sustainable solutions and informal education opportunities to protect our healers, to create programs for our children that may not be military or college material, but they have talent. You know what I'm saying? They just need to be harnessed, and we want sweat equity programs, and also want to create another lane that they can get into right away, that can make them into entrepreneurs. I'm working on something right now called dream management, because we don't manage our dreams right away. We wait until we 40, decide to go back to college, and that's so we can get credentials to go work for somebody else. You know what I'm saying? So and that comes from not managing dreams early on, while not creating tangible paths to get to those dreams. So, that's yeah. And I'm also a husband, of a lovely woman named Shoni, who I've been with for 3 years, and we met on MySpace a long time ago. So that's kind of some of the things that I'm into.
I did not expect the MySpace.
Hey, yeah. Met on MySpace. It was in my top 5, you know what I'm saying?
I was gonna say, she your top 8, bro. Like
top 5, you know what I'm saying? So like, it had to happen.
Thanks, Tom. So Jules, tell them about your business, which is one of my favorite businesses to patronize.
So I'm not going to tell them about that business because I'm not. Because right now my what's commanded or what's at the front of my plate is not that. Let me put it that way.
Okay.
It's doing community work. Plus, we're in COVID-19 and I'm playing it safe. Okay. But he's referring to my skin and hair care company, Just Whip. So you can follow Just Whip on Instagram. But I wanted to say this, for all of my businesses and things that I do, everything's going to be streamlined to _the pretty professor. _the pretty professor. And so you'll get social justice, you'll get me radio hosting, and you'll get my business ventures all there. We're working on websites and Linktree and all of that. But yeah, follow me there. You can also follow Pretty Petty Politics Pod on Instagram. All you have to do is put in Pretty Petty Politics. It's pink and blue. A little play off the red and blue. And I say Pretty Petty Politics is like NPR and Breakfast Club had a baby. So that's
exactly what it's like, especially the episode I was on. So we had a whole moment.
I'm doing the work. I stay in my lane. I've built so many wonderful relationships, and that's what I just want to encourage people to do is, build bridges, build relationships. I have, and That's super duper important. But yeah, follow me on Instagram. Because I kind of hide myself on Facebook. So yeah.
Understandable. Dustin, what you need? What you need some support for, man? How can we support you, bro?
I got kids. Y'all got money?
I can babysit.
I need that too, because it's like you get
because you and your wife need a night out.
We need a night.
Kids and therapy.
Oh, I'll fix that. Don't worry about it. I'm good.
All right. Well, that's didn't expect that. So Chantigalo, talk to me. What can we support you with?
My Cash App is Chantel Pace. You know, I'm a second-year doc student trying to afford these books. Meanwhile, doing free therapy for everybody and their mama.
Put that in the chat.
Did you say gluten-free? You said gluten-free therapy? Is that what you said?
No, I said just free therapy. Yeah. So the therapy I do is free.
Oh, I thought you said gluten-free therapy. I was like, what the hell is gluten-free therapy? Like, well, I mean,
it might be a thing. I might need to do that. And, you know, white folks give me money for that. That might be an actual thing. So thank you for that idea. I will cite you.
Huh?
How? Gluten-free? Bro, how you?
It don't matter.
That mean it don't cost no bread, bro. You ain't using bread.
But I am working on a small project with our research team, Sankofa. And Sankofa means to go back and get it. It's a word from Ghana. And we're working on a Black mental health syllabus. So something accessible for those who can't really afford therapy, that there's podcast episodes, books, and just free stuff that you get engaged in mental health work according to your financial health, your physical health, emotional health, and especially family dynamics, because that's been a big thing that I've been seeing with clients. So.
Gotcha. Asia, thank you so much for coming straight from the protests. First of all, if there's any way we can support you in the immediate sense, please let us know. Please let me know. I know this is a trying time for the Minneapolis area and our people up there, but if there's anything that you want to put out there that, you know, you want our support with, let the people know.
Absolutely. So I wrote a children's book last year called Finding My Cool. And it's based on me and my kids' experience with helping with big emotions. I found myself at the crossroads with he's 9 now, but he was 7 at the time, where all the teachers were like, he's doing too much. He's feeling too much. He's expressing himself too much. And y'all don't know me, but I'm a very expressive person. So he get it rightfully so. But one thing I don't want my kid or any other kid of color is to be suppressed of what they feel or that they're told they're feeling too much. So Finding My Cool was published last year, and it just helps, you know, families to have conversation about having your feelings and how to help your children navigate through them. And I'm also working on my second book right now called Letters to My Sons. And it's letters that I've written to my boys on what I want them to know about life. So I'm currently working on that project. But right now you can go to Amazon.com and just look up Finding My Cool by Dr. Asia King. So.
Dope. I'm definitely going to check that out. So we got authors here, mental health professionals. We got parents here. We got all kinds of stuff here, man. My heart is full right now, man, because I feel like I feel optimistic about the future, because we talked about ways to sustainably and directly attack the situations that we're dealing with in this country. And just to recap that before we get out of here, we have to be accountable, not only to ourselves, but to one another. We got to get involved. You know, we got to find our way, find our lane, so to speak, and get involved. We have to evolve as well. We got to grow, y'all. We can't be stagnant. That which does not grow is dead. So we got to grow. We got to evolve. Although we want everybody to make it, some people might fall by the wayside. And I think those people should be like, you know, we have to look at them in the same way we have to look at, you know, folks that say all skin folk and kinfolk. That's the same kind of concept. And it's not always based on their own decision, but sometimes it's based on just the circumstances. I'm not gonna say that. That's gonna be way too much. We have to get a hold of the economics in our community. We have to start circulating our dollars more within our community. We have to buy back the block. I'm a Christian. I know a lot of people have different views on Christianity and stuff like that, but I don't go to churches and I don't spend my time, my money, or anything with churches that don't have a plan to help the community and help our community. I was really shocked that the church I go to, which has a white pastor, I was really shocked that he had a whole sermon on white privilege not too long ago, and I thought that was amazing. We have to educate ourselves. We have to become educated not only formally and in school. We appreciate that. We got a doctoral student. We got somebody with a JD. We got a whole doctor over here too. We appreciate that formal education, but there are informal ways to educate yourself as well. We want to embrace that as well, and we want to bring them together from not only the academy, but we want to get it from the block too. I mean, that makes us well-rounded as a community. All hands got to be on deck. Everybody has a part to play. Fred Hampton Jr. actually said in a speech, he said everybody had a part to play. He said Ho Chi Minh said everybody had a part to play. There's no such thing as an abstract support. We want concrete commitment. And even the prostitutes in the Vietnamese Revolution had a part to play. That's what he said. So, I mean, if have OnlyFans for revolution, don't go out here and have woke booty revolution on OnlyFans. You get what I'm saying, though. Everybody got a part to play. We have to embrace community collaboration. So it's not just us by ourselves that has to embrace one another, but like you mentioned with our Native American brothers and sisters, let's embrace them as well when they come in with that support. Now, at the same time, a lot of our progress needs to be made for us and by us, but we have to embrace that community support because no man is an island, and we're all in the same village together. And last but not least, we have to take care of ourselves and each other. Self-care is very important, but we have to take care of each other. I have not mugged a black man since college, probably. I nod to everybody. I speak to everybody, all that. We have to start doing that. If I see a black person pulled over on the side of the road, I'm pulling across the street and I'm videotaping or I'm watching. They need to know that somebody is there supporting them, and we need to do that in every aspect of our lives. We have to support each other, and we have to support our community, and we have to take care of each other because we got at this point. With that being said, I love y'all. I appreciate y'all, and we'll catch y'all next time.
Peace.